Did you know that emotional maturity is kind of sexy? I'm sure you did. And that's going to be the topic today. What we're going to talk about is emotionally grown up people have this thing in common, actually, several things in common. So, before I get into this, if you're a man listening to this and you've watched any of the red pill conversation or the manosphere and whatnot, maybe ladies, you've heard this as well. There is this conversation going on around relationships that men or women are the problem in relationship, that they're only seeking to date up in their status of class. They're only seeking to date the cream of the crop type of men, and they're discounting the average guy. And because of that, the average man, the normal man, basically has no options. And there's a lot of criticism by men that women have left the normal man, the average guy, alone, only seeking the cream of the crop. And guess what? There's only the select few of the cream of the crop can't seem to handle, or when I say handle, navigate all of the women that are coming after them. And that's a little tongue in cheek on my part. So, what inspired this post today is the conversation about emotional maturity. And I want to be candid with you. I actually decided to shoot this video based on a post I did on Facebook regarding Jennifer Aniston's new boyfriend, Jim Curtis. And if you're not familiar about this, Jennifer Aniston is dating a gentleman named Jim Curtis, who happens to be a wellness coach, who happens to be a hypnotherapist. And I saw this post that said Jennifer Aniston is dating a normal man. And I thought to myself, I need to blog about this. So I want to share this with everyone. Here's the photograph I posted, if you can see that, of Jennifer Aniston and her guy. And my blog post said, and I'll read it to you. Some people call the man at Jennifer Aniston's side normal, but I don't buy that for a second, because the man she's chosen, Jim Curtis, isn't normal. He's a healer. He's not a movie star or famous. And let me repeat that. He is a healer of the emotional heart. A former corporate guy who didn't stay corporate, diagnosed with a spinal cord illness in his 20s, Jim endured pain, paralysis, a limp, and lifetime of struggle. But he didn't settle. He turned his suffering into service. He walked through darkness so many others wouldn't see. He did the inner work. He rewrote his story and turned it into medicine for others' wounds. Today, he coaches, he speaks, he writes, he guides people towards healing. If Jennifer chose him, she didn't pick safety or glamour. She picked him because of heart. She picked a man who has dared to grow, to feel, to transform, and to help others do the same. This is not normal. This is sacred. And I did also say he's pretty damn handsome too. So why am I sharing this with you today? Folks, if you're a woman seeking a man who is an emotional grown-up, men, if you are seeking a woman who's an emotional grown-up, then maybe it's time we investigate the common thread through emotional maturity. And while certainly kindness and loyalty within a romantic relationship are significantly important, there is a common thread that people have that have emotional maturity. Not everyone has had to do deep soul work, like shadow work, like I did, or has had to deal with a lot of trauma to heal from their past. Some people have had micro traumas growing up, and some people have had significant traumas. And those that have had significant traumas in childhood or in their adult life most likely need to do some level of personal development, self-help, and spiritual work, and even therapy to heal, to be emotional grown up, to have the relationship skills to be able to navigate today's relationships. See, thankfully, women today are no longer dependent upon men for survival. And because of that, the old one up, one down type of dynamic is no longer a necessity as much as they were before. Today's relationship requires some level of emotional maturity. It requires some level of relationship skills. In fact, it requires some level of self-love. And if you're not familiar with my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A Journey of Personal Development, Self-Help, and Spiritual Work, I highly recommend checking it out. My book is listed below. In fact, we'll just even plop this in the screen. In Jonathan recommends readings. I recommend any book that I recommend today is listed below. Okay, so definitely check that out. But where I'm going with this today is that relationships require a lot more than they did in the past. And as I said before, it requires some level of emotional maturity, some level of healing from their past, some level of good communication skills. In fact, if you haven't read the book, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, I highly recommend reading this book. Reading this book puts you on the path to emotional maturity. Because the reality is today is to tap into what a person's feelings requires learning how to not only just evaluate your feelings, but to be able to express it in a way that can be seen, heard, and understood. And it's not just about your feelings, it's also about your needs within a relationship. What do you need? And you see, for the men watching this, I have coached women and I know your frustration. A lot of women struggle expressing their needs. A lot of women have duct tape over their mouth expressing their needs. And yet they're the ones who seem to claim that they're the emotionally grown-up ones. Well, I'm going to tell you something. It's a human issue. It's not a male or female issue to actually be able to identify our feelings and then express it in a way, in a non-confrontational way, in a compassionate way where you can be seen, heard, and understood. So, to dive into the common thread amongst emotionally grown-up people, first, emotion, and by the way, I'm going to read from my notes, so allow me to look down on the screen here. Emotionally mature means owning your feelings and reactions rather than blaming others or hiding. Let me repeat that. Emotional maturity means owning your feelings and your reactions rather than blaming or hiding. See, a lot of us have developed coping skills where it's so difficult to actually own our own feelings, our feelings of sadness, our feelings of distress, our feelings of agitation, our feelings of bitterness, our feelings of compassion. Believe it or not, there's a list of feelings. By the way, here's a list of feelings. The sheet that I have is over 8 years old. By the way, can someone write this down? Google Hoffman Process List of Feelings. Please Google this, Hoffman Process List of Feelings. And for many people, they either hide within their feelings or they're so hurt in their feelings that they have to blame somebody else. And that we're talking about the kind of ownership that when you own your feelings, you become quietly magnetic. That's right. A person who can actually accept that they can actually be in a place of ownership of their feelings is very magnetic, whether you're a man or a woman. I know this has mostly been reserved for women, but I'm here to say to the men watching this, let me tell you something. There is nothing weak about being vulnerable. There is nothing weak about expressing your insecurities and your fears. Now, if you're living in your fears and insecurities, if you're swimming constantly in your fears and insecurities, sure, that's unattractive. I'm sure, men, you wouldn't want to date a woman who's swimming in her fears and insecurities. But owning your fears and insecurities, owning your feelings, owning your judgments, taking personal responsibility from that place, as I said before, that kind of ownership is quietly magnetic. And I'm inviting you all to dive into that. Now, number 2, emotionally grown-up people, it means empathy. The ability to meet someone else's pain or joy with understanding and compassion. Let me repeat that. The ability to meet someone else's pain or joy with understanding or compassion. It's that presence that feels safe. It feels rare. It feels deeply attractive. When you can be present, when you can be empathetic, and empathetic isn't just about feeling someone's feelings. Empathy is actually identifying your own feelings from that vantage point. That's how we dive into empathy, when we're feeling someone else's feelings and then be able to recognize it from our own mirror of what's going on inside ourselves. And to the men watching this, I want you to know this can be juicy, delicious connection with a female partner. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to vomit all your feelings or that sort of thing. I meant to say that in the earlier part of the conversation. But certainly, having empathy, taking ownership of your own feelings is highly attractive. And those are the people that both men and women want to be with, are those people. Number 3, emotional maturity means bringing authenticity. Truth over image. Integrity beats glamour every time. You know, when I was thinking of Jennifer Aniston and Jim Curtis, certainly, I mean, she's a powerhouse of a successful woman. She certainly has a high image, I suspect. But you know what? To capture a guy like him, a person, a wellness coach, a person who's devoted his life to helping others from a healing perspective, a person who's most likely done the shadow work, the personal development, self-help, and spiritual work, he's not looking at her image, nor was she looking at his image. Because bringing emotional empathy into emotional maturity means bringing your authenticity. You're not trying to win someone over. You're not climbing to the highest room of the tallest tower. You're showing up present, grounded, active listening, really listening from the heart, from a place of kindness, and certainly from a romantic perspective, showing up with authenticity oftentimes demonstrates that loyalty I talked about before. Number 4, it means clear, kind communication. Clear, kind communication. I talked about this a moment ago. Nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg. It's expressing your needs, setting boundaries, and resolving conflict from a calm, honest, rather than a dramatic way. I have to read that again for everybody. Expressing needs, setting boundaries, and resolving conflict from a calm, honest place. You know, a lot of people operate from a place of I'm right, you're wrong. In fact, resolving conflict is usually about fighting unfair, meaning I don't care what you have to say. I'm right, you're wrong. One of the hallmarks of emotional maturity is recognizing, and I call it fighting fair, but it simply means how can we both win when we have differences? How can we both win when we have differences? Not how can one win and one lose? How can both of us win? You know, I'm going to use a crude and simple example, but it's kind of fascinating to me. And I'm using differences here for a moment. You know, there are simple differences like I like to put forks down in the dishwasher. My girlfriend likes to put them forks up. Simple difference. But some people have lifestyle differences. And being able to navigate these differences, I was talking to a couple, he's a morning person, she's an evening person, and it causes a bit of conflict in their relationship. And you know what's interesting? How they said they would resolve it, and this is just one of many ways. They said on a couple days, and they wanted to be able to share their experiences together. They said a couple days a week, I'll go to bed earlier, and a couple days a week, I'll go to bed late. The other person will go to bed later. They were trying to find a win-win in the simple difference. Now, sometimes there's going to be differences where you have to agree to disagree. That just sometimes happens. But fighting fair, operating from emotional maturity, from a clear, kind, communicative place is saying, how can we both win instead of how we can both lose, or how one can win and one can lose. Number five, it means responsibility for growth, your past, your triggers, your healing. Let me repeat that, your growth. Ultimately, people that are emotionally grown up want to continually improve themselves. They want to navigate their fears, their insecurities, their doubts, their judgments of others, how their actions affect other people from a place of growing past their limitations. They recognize that human being recognizing that there's so much more improvement one can do. It's not like you go to a workshop once and it's all over. There's constant improvement and growth in one's life. It means being responsible for your past, recognizing that many of us in midlife have past relationships, and it's taking ownership of your past and asking yourself, What positive things about myself did I learn in this experience? How have I healed from this experience? What was good about my past relationship? What was so not so good? So I can learn from it. And lastly, what am I most grateful for? Can someone write that down? Write that down. What positive things did I learn about myself? That's looking at your past. How have I healed from my past relationships? What was good about each one of my relationships? What was not so good? And lastly, what am I most grateful for? By taking responsibility of your past, you're demonstrating that you're an emotional grown-up. And let me tell you something, in a world where most people point the finger at the other person, blaming the other person for their past relationships, we are swimming in a sea of people that it looks like every woman has dated every narcissist on the planet and vice versa. If you don't take ownership of your part, that's usually a sign you're not emotionally grown up for a relationship. And certainly your triggers. Look at those who follow me know I'm hyper aware of several of my gigantic triggers. And I'm aware of it. I've talked to my partner about it only because I think it's important that we understand what sets us off. Doesn't mean we have to react to it, but at least having some understanding. That's self-awareness. That's a person that has an examined life. That's a person that's emotionally grown up. They all have this in common. And actually, when I talked about growth, I'm talking about healing as well. Saying, I want to heal. I want to grow. I want to improve. I take ownership of everything. And even if I get set off, I'm going to take ownership that I was acting maybe a little immature in this moment. And number 6, the last one. And by the way, there's more than these 6 I'm sharing. The willingness to own your story, the willingness to own your story signals strength and self-respect. It allows for real intimacy, vulnerability, softness, consistency, emotional safety, not just surface level flash, but the deep connection. You know, most people today, their conversations go like this. How's your day going? Did you have a good day? I hope you had a good day. Tell me about your day. Let's just keep talking about our day all day long. It's one thing to talk about the surface level of your day, but it's another to go deeper, to own your story, to own your emotions, to own your needs and your wants and your desires. From a place of strength and self-respect, it allows for real intimacy. Intimacy. Into me see. I think it was it Esther Perel that coined that? I can't remember. Into me see. That's what intimacy is about. It's about opening your heart to someone, to be unapologetically yourself, to say, you can see me raw and vulnerable. And it's okay because I trust you. And trust doesn't happen overnight. Trust takes hours upon hours of sincere, heartfelt communication with one another. To talk about your fears, your insecurities, your past, to talk about your triggers, to talk about all these things. We here in the United States, we rush sex way before we rush emotional intimacy. And when we're willing to own our story, when we're willing to own our part, we are certainly demonstrating the threads in common of what emotionally grown-up people show. And I suspect, coming back to Jennifer Aniston and Jim Curtis, I suspect this is a gentleman who's done the work because he's a healer. He wants to help others connect with their heart. And I think Jennifer is going to benefit by being with a really fantastic guy. And once again, to show you that picture of the two of them, there they are. I think they're a cute couple, and I'm rooting for them. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. There's a link to join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. There's a link to follow me on social media and a link to get my dating vows as well. All right, those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box in the corner. Write the word question and post the question thereafter. or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. All of the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. That's a picture of him right there with his brother, Colin. He's my son who passed away over 7 years ago. And in his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute and scholarships to coaching as well. And we'd really appreciate $50 tonight. So if 10 of you donated $5, we get there. Let's see what we already have here. Angela wrote, do you think that an emotionally mature person can understand and support a woman who doesn't have a relationship with her abusive family? I think absolutely. When we understand your origin and we understand the nuances of what has occurred, and again, I think we would understand if the woman in this particular story is not completely pointing 100% of the finger at them, to take some ownership on her part of the disconnect within the family. I think an emotionally mature person can be very supportive. I'm not suggesting, I think there are some family members that can be, if there's genuine abuse, particularly if you have to call a doctor, an attorney, or a policeman, it makes sense to, like if you need a restraining order from your family, that makes total sense. Garden variety emotional abuse. In other words, hey, listen, my dad yelled at me for things I don't think that were warranted. That was the best he could do. I'm differentiating. If you have to call a doctor, an attorney, or a policeman, I think an emotionally mature person would absolutely understand that. And but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. So thank you so much, Angela. I appreciate that. Let's see what we've got here. Cindy wants to remind everyone I mentioned the Hoffman Process list of feelings. The Hoffman Process list of feelings. Let's see. Easy woman. Oh, OZ woman. I'm processing getting an appointment for a possible apartment as long as I'm growing. Am I okay? Wait a minute. Let me see this. Let me see. There's more to this. My issue was people pleasing. Now I'm recovering and feeling better. That's great to hear. By the way, Angela wants to point out that holiday season is very stressful for many couples. I would agree. As of the recording, we're coming up on the holiday season. Although I think there's holidays every month to some degree. I think, we can look at it from the lens of it's stressful, or we can look at it from the lens that it's just an experience. And so I think if we are looking with the lens of stressful, then it will be stressful. If you look at it from the lens of everything comes to me with ease, then I think it's going to come more with ease. So I guess it depends on how you want to view it. I guess it depends on what is actually happening. So, and I think it's also, we can look at what potentially stressful situation, and we can reframe it as a way to build closeness, as a way to build love. We can always turn a potentially negative situation into a positive situation, depending on how we want to look at it. Reminds me of the story, good luck, bad luck, I don't know. If anyone knows that story, can someone post it in the comment? Good luck, bad luck, I don't know story. I invite you to Google it, read it. It's a cute story, but it allows you to look at things from the lens of good luck, bad luck, I don't know. Angela wants to say, your advice is always very good, Jonathan. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. White horse is in the house. Since most of us have been traumatized by people or events, emotionally mature people are rare to find. The fascinating thing is, most people I talk to believe that they're emotionally mature. And so when they believe they're emotionally mature, they think everybody, then it's a rarity. Because I believe most of us have we have issues, okay? I have my issues. Am I an emotional grown-up? Am I emotionally mature? I would say, that's in the eye of the beholder. Think about that. That's in the eye of the beholder. What one person thinks is rare is another person's gem, so to speak. Or one person's trash, another person's gem. I believe that emotional maturity includes actions matching words, as I was saying earlier, having victor consciousness instead of victim consciousness, fighting fair, as I talked about, empathy, basically, where I was talking about really having compassion for someone else's feelings, and transparency. If it's material to the relationship, I think transparency is another gigantic sign of emotional maturity. And you know what? There are good, kind, loyal people out there that can make really great partners. Are they the most emotionally mature people? Maybe not. But you know what? There are a lot of people that operate with good common horse sense, if you will. And I think they are less rare than you think of. Okay. And Angela wants to point out, your beloved must be happy to be with an emotionally mature guy like you. I think, you know, it's interesting. I think if she were here right now, and I hope to have her on the channel at some point, I think she would say that she's experiencing a unique relationship. Not that she hasn't experienced good relationships in her life, but we just happen to be very aligned with each other. We share a lot of the same values. We have a growth mindset philosophy. We have a growth mindset philosophy. We have a connection with the divine. We are both people that are in service to one another. Let me repeat that. You know, we're both givers. We're both in service to one another. I actually don't look at the relationship from what I can get. I always operate from what I can give. And I got to tell you, as a man who was single, you know, not less than, 7 months ago, when I think of a lot of the dating in the year and a half after my significant relationship ended, or the year afterwards, I met a lot of women who were takers. See, a lot of women who think they're givers, a lot of them are takers. Now, and when I say takers, they're in a myopic, unconscious space of what can I get? Very few people date from a place of what can I give? And here's the thing, everybody who thinks they operate that way probably don't. I think that's the myopic delusion many humans live with. And I'm guilty of what can I take versus what can I give. But I certainly operate from that vantage point within my relationship right now. And I'm incredibly grateful to also be with a person who's a giver, whose natural state is to be we just like being of service to one another. We love growth. We love laughter. We love binge watching bizarre shows on Netflix and all the different channels. We're very simpatico in that way, and we just enjoy each other's company. We genuinely enjoy each other's company. She says to me, I like you like you. Can someone write that down? I like you like you. Like, I like you like you. That's it's her thing. Oh, by the way, she calls me Noodles. That's my nickname. She says I'm constantly noodling. I think that's kind of par for the course of what I do. I'm always looking at ways to help people in their romantic life. So I'm always noodling about human behavior, my own behavior as well. And we like each other. So I think when you reach that point, you can be very happy in relationship. All right, folks, you know what? I think this would be a great place to wrap up. Did you find value in this conversation today? Emotional maturity is the new sexy. Just like Jennifer Aniston's boyfriend. I think he's not only is he good looking, but he seems like an emotionally mature guy. And I really do wish them much success in their relationship. Hey, did you find value in this conversation? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell and be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Thanks, Angela. check out my links below to get the books I recommend, to join my group, to follow me on social media. And don't forget to get my dating vows. Here, I'll post a banner of it here right now. My dating vows. Don't forget to get my dating vows so you can join my mailing list as well. All right. I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Berg of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Angela and everyone else that commented, and wishing you all a super duper wonderful evening. Be well. Thanks. Bye now.